Hello there, I'm Roberto Geroli and I'm the Development Director for Total War Core Technology. So we look after the tech roadmap for the Total War franchise. Today we're going to have a presentation around the collaboration. So what is this about? There is this quote that, when a group becomes a team, there is nothing like it. It's great to work in a group that collaborates really well. It's fun, it's energizing, and so we're going to see some tips on how to create a great team, how to be a good team member, and how to be a high performance team. So watch this presentation if you want to have fun when you work with your team, if you want your team to be the best team and create amazing things, and if you want to have better chances of being hired. We'll have 4 agenda points today: how to be a great team member, how to create amazing teams, encourage good team culture, and some real life case studies. Right, let's start from the first, how to be a great team player. It's tricky in today's world to know what to listen to and what to believe. There are so many sources of information out there. So how to distinguish which ones to trust? My advice would be to check whenever there is some research evidence around the topic. And luckily in this case, we have some. So these people down there studied 1,600 teams in the US and Sweden across many years, and they checked how they worked. And they've identified that about 20% of them are what can be defined as high performance teams. And so they checked for commonalities amongst these teams. So what I'm about to share is not like a manual around how to be a good team player, but it's more like an observation around all these high performance teams. What do they have in common? Let's share these things as tips and see if they work. So the first one, the first tip would be fight. Well, it's around conflict and disagreeing with your team members. So in a high performance team, you should be able to disagree with your team members without issue. And this is around successful conflict resolution, which it applies in general in life. And it's around like the freedom to be yourself and disagree without fear of rejection or retribution. And this develops, it helps to develop trust. Again, even in outside work, even in life in general, we develop trust. If we believe that we can disagree with someone and we won't be abandoned or hurt just because we are disagreeing, it's difficult to trust people who deny us the right to hold different views. So this is very important in a team, to be a good team member, to welcome conflict, and don't be afraid to disagree. There are tips for like positive conflict resolution. We are sharing some here. So I would encourage to communicate views clearly and explicitly, to avoid generalizations. Be very specific about the things you're disagreeing with. It doesn't help to like keep it very broad and generic. Encourage trust and cooperation even when you disagree and when you have some conflict. It's very helpful to, and this relates to the generalization bit, to break down the conflict and tackle issues one at a time. Also, if someone behaves competitively, respond cooperatively. But then if they continue, there is also this tip to show willingness to compete by arguing your position if people keep being competitive. And if everything fails, don't be afraid to seek help of a third party, of a teacher or another senior member of another team. Second tip we're going to share today comes from social science, and it's called the fundamental attribution error. So what is it? This is basically the tendency to blame the other guy. Don't do that for group problems. If there is an issue in your team, don't just say, oh, it's the lead's fault or is this other team member fault. And because that unfortunately typically doesn't solve the issue. So you can work on yourself on this, but how to fix it in the whole team? Well, the suggestion here is to talk with group members about this very normal human tendency. When people are aware that this is something that we all do and that it happens, they will start to look at other factors that are inhibiting progress. Today's world and even in and outside work, it's very complex, so much that it's rare that one person and only one person is responsible for a specific problem. And so it's actually best to assume that it's never the case. So when there is something that doesn't feel right in what someone else is doing, give them the benefit of the doubt. Blaming them won't help. Everyone in the team shares the responsibility for success. And by talking about this and by being mindful of this, you can fix this fundamental attribution error. The next one is, I don't get it. What are the group's goals? How to achieve those goals? So one, if not the most important characteristic of high-performance teams in this study, were that they had clear goals. They knew what they wanted to do, what they wanted to achieve, and how to get there. Now, this might seem easy, like, okay, this is our goal. We want to deliver this product or work on this task. But typically, group members have different ideas about what accomplishing goals entail. So whenever you don't understand or you have some doubts around what's going on, ask questions publicly to the whole team until you have a good understanding, because there is a very high chance that if you have a questions, others have as well. They just maybe not voicing it. The next bit, it's like a question if you want. Whenever you're at work or in a group project, how much time is spent talking about the work, the project, and how much time is like supportive communication, like, yes, you're right, thanks for your suggestion, things like that. I don't know, when I got this, I answered maybe, I don't know, 2%. So in these high performance teams, the supportive communication was typically around 15-20% of all the communication that were going in the team. So, which is to me, it was quite surprising. So what's the suggestion here? Whenever you have some good feedback on someone else, share it. Sometimes, I think, oh, he's doing great, or she's been fantastic with this suggestion. But then I just think and I don't tell them. The suggestion here is voice these things. You have good feedback, share it, because that's very important for success. These were the main tips. If you want, there are others. For example, around problem solving. When you have a problem, there is a suggestion to do some orientation phase, discuss with other team members, make a decision around how you want to fix this problem. And then two key steps that incredibly are often missed are the implementation phase. So you made a decision, put it in place, implement it, and then critically, after some time, evaluate the decision. Is it really working? Do we need to change something? This is often missed, and problem is solved. We've implemented a solution, done. Go back to your decisions and see if they are really effective. Then around open communication, so it's everyone's responsibility for everyone to be involved. So if someone doesn't talk much because they don't have the space, because there are always some people that are more enthusiastic about talking about issues or problems or ideas, but give everyone space and encourage others to participate. Also in the team, always support innovation and freedom of expression. Innovation is quite important to the ability to experiment and also fail. When you try something new, it's normal to fail the first times. And then last tip about not establishing rules about unimportant things. And on the other hand, support the rules that encourage high performance standards. Basically, yeah, if with your group you agree to mediocrity, that's what you will get. These were the tips on how to be a good team member. But now you might wonder, okay, but how does this help me to stand out in an interview or to get a job? I don't have a job yet, so I cannot prove that I care about these things. So even before you get your first job, you can still use these tips. For example, CV, a resume, when you don't have any like work experience or very little experience, will look roughly like this, one pager. And there is typically a section about your profile and your objectives for your career. And here you can put something like, I'm passionate about working in a team and support each other in achieving our goals. So if I see a CV that mentions these things, this is quite important for me. Someone says that like skills can always be learned, but attitude, it's much more difficult to change. So if I interview someone who is willing to work in a team, willing to learn, even if they don't have the skills, that's typically fine. Having someone eager and passionate is very important. Or in the experience, even if you don't have work experience, if you did any project in school where you worked in a team, put it in your CV. That can be very interesting. So we worked in a team of 6. I acted as a producer, for example, supporting the team with conflict resolution strategies or driving Scrum routines. This can be very interesting to see in a CV for trainee positions. In the skills, where you typically write what you're competent, like IT skills, softwares and stuff, you can put things like knowledge of team dynamics and stages of group development. So if you're interested in this topic, there in the last slide there are some suggested reads. So if you have knowledge around these things, put it in your CV. These are things that can be interesting for an interviewer. And other abilities, again, if you've expanded on these topics and you put things like team dynamics, conflict resolution, again, these are good ways to highlight in your CV that you have an interest and some knowledge on these things, and hopefully this will make a difference when your CV is selected. The second point in our presentation today is how to create amazing teams. And you might be like, wait a minute, I'm not even in the job industry. How can I create an amazing team? I need to be part of a team yet. And whilst this is true, first of all, there is a tip around when you share these team dynamics concepts. Team members should be trained also in the leadership skills, because it's very important to all be aware of what's going on. But also, in my team, for example, we hired a trainee producer, and as producers, you would be asked to look after the dynamics of the team and suggest maybe tech leads on how to improve the team culture. So yeah, even as a trainee who just started their career, you might be able to make an impact into how to create a great team. So yeah, let's see some tips. The first tip is it's normal, it's going to be okay. So especially when a team is formed, there are things that are unclear, confusion, awkwardness even, and people may feel like out of control. When you reassure them that it's normal, that in the beginning things are murky. They are everything is all over the place. We don't have processes yet in place, or it's been a team that has been there for a while, but we've had new team members and things need to change slightly. If you feel the awkwardness, that might be tricky. But if you recognize that this is normal, it's not you're not alone in this, and this is standard process of joining a team. That should allow you to relax and enjoy the ride if you want. So typically people with knowledge of group behavior make better group members and leaders. So again, just by knowing these things, you are ahead of the competition if you want. The second tip, you're familiar with it already. It's again fight. So even when you are creating a team or you're part of the team culture, the conflict is again important. So most of us, myself included, tend to avoid conflict as much as they can. But if you recognize that it's inevitable to define goals, procedures, roles in the teams, then you can gradually welcome conflict and disagreeing. So just reminded that we are talking about like conflicts around tasks, roles, structure, not personal conflict. We should all try to actively avoid personal conflict. That doesn't help group progress. Whilst, as we said, the task conflict is necessary to create this unified direction. Let's see another tip. Don't sit on the sidelines. This is very important. Take responsibility for what's going on, even if it doesn't involve you directly. Oh, but this is his responsibility. It's he should fix it. That doesn't help. It doesn't create these high performance and really great teams to work with. Every group member is responsible for the group's outcomes. Never wait for other members or the lead to solve a problem. Contribute it yourself. Feel empowered to do it. Engage and be challenged. Formulating, communicating a vision that engages your coworkers is really important. I'll restart this one. So formulating and communicating a vision that engages coworkers is really important. So you should show consideration for your peers. You should involve them in problem solving, and yourself, you should act with integrity. Be a good role models. And if you become a lead, or if you have a lead, which we all do in work, be ready to, like if you're the lead, to be challenged. So, and if you're a team member, don't be afraid to challenge the lead, or in a respectful way and collaborative way. But yes, make suggestions, take initiative, take even part like in the monitoring, in the guidance of the whole team. And that's a great way for team members to share the responsibilities and become a great team. If you're a lead, in the beginning, it's expected that you are very hands-on and you have the situation in your hands. But as the teams progresses, it's a very good idea to delegate responsibilities to other team members. The last tip I'm going to share around creating great teams are the 4 stages of group development. And then if you're interested, I would recommend either the reads that I'm sharing at the end, or to check online. Sometimes they're called Storm, Norm, Perform, or many other ways. But it's typically recognized that there are 4 stages. In the first stage, the group's infancy, leaders should be like directive and confident. In stage 2, they should empower members to start taking some responsibilities. In stage 3, the leader should involve other members in what he or she was typically doing. And then in stage 4, which is the top stage of group development, the leader typically just participates as an expert member of their team. And because they have delegated many of the leadership function to other team members. And this was the second point on our agenda. The third is how to encourage good team culture. I wanted to share this quote with you from Shuk. The way is not to change how people think, but change how people behave, what they do. Implementing certain processes have a good effect on team culture. There are many frameworks out there. The most used today is Agile and Scrum. So I would recommend to explore these topics and have some decent knowledge around this, because they're used in many industries. Implementing the practices for the Agile movement or Lean that you might also be familiar with, they have an effect on the team culture. So, for example, Agile is around the ability to create and respond to change. We are in a ever-changing world. We cannot just say on day one, this is the product we want to implement, and expect that after a few months or years, that is still the product envisioned on day one is still the product we are going to deliver at the end. For example, in games development, it might take a few years to implement a game, and if we never change, we never adapt to the market, and we never listen to the community in the years it takes to implement a game, we're probably setting up ourselves to failure. So in Agile, there is a collaborative effort of self-organizing and cross-functional teams with their end users, so the people playing the game in this case, as to adapt the plan, to deliver constantly and early, to have continual improvement, and being very flexible to responding to changes. Or the Lean movement, you might be less familiar with this one, but it's around creating needed value with fewer resources and less waste. So yeah, there is like a continuous experimentation to achieve the perfect value with zero waste, which is it's like the end goal target, probably unachievable, but strive to perfection without expecting to ever reach it. Then another tip on the team culture is failure, and how do you deal with failures. What are called the pathological organizations, the bad ones if you want, whenever there is failure, they look for a throat to choke, and there are like investigations to find the person or persons that are responsible for the problem and punish or blame them. But we touched on this earlier, in today's world, especially at work, we have complex systems, and typically accidents are not the fault of one single person who saw clearly that it was this bad thing was going to happen, and they ran towards it or failed to act to prevent it. This is typically not the case. Nowadays, accidents emerge from a complex interplays of many contributing factors. So our goal, if we want to encourage good team culture, should be to discover how we could improve the information flow so that people have better or more timely information, and how to find better tools to prevent catastrophic failures. So yeah, we're not looking for a scapegoat. We're looking at improvements on how this can be prevented from happening in the future. So whenever there is a mistake, if you don't blame someone from a mistake, but you take it as an opportunity to see how we can all improve and learn, that's a very good way, a critical way to create a good team culture. And again, also around this, there is a lot of literature around good, how to encourage at work or in any project a good team culture. For example, one you can find if you Google Western organizational culture, are these three types. And on the left is, if you want, the bad pathological culture. In the middle is somewhat the standard, what they call bureaucratic, and on the right-hand side, the generative culture, the one that creates good value. And you can see the bit we talked about just now, that in the pathological companies, failure leads to scapegoating. In the middle, we have like the norm or the average, where failure leads to justice. But if you want to create a great team, failure should lead to inquiry, to finding out what happened and improve. And again, you can see the other main points of this team culture, where there is high cooperation. The messengers that bring bad news, they're not shot for sure, and not even neglected. They are trained. We train people to bring up feedback. We share risks. We encourage bridging with other teams, and novelty is implemented. So yeah, in general, in a generative culture, let's see these points. So what does high cooperation means? It means that there are cross-functional teams, so that they have the full responsibility to deliver the whole feature or product. So there is like a representative from each aspect. Like, I don't know, in web it would be a front-end developer and the CSS, or in a video game it would be someone from the rendering team and the environmental art, and to have cross-functional teams. What does it mean to train the messenger? So we want people to bring us bad news, because this is key to make things better. If you remove blame, it means that you remove fear and you enable teams to surface problems and solve them. Share risks. More eyes on the delivery process mean you'll avoid more errors. Encourage bridging is around breaking down silos. So an example, there is some work you don't understand or that frustrates you, invite them for coffee or lunch, and you can have a great opportunity to understand why they do what they do, and maybe even come up with solutions together. And we mentioned this, failure lead to inquiry, so you can have blameless retrospectives to see what happened. We mentioned it's particularly critical how you respond to failure in team culture. And implementing novelty, encouraging experimentation, giving freedom of exploring new ideas. For example, at work there can be internal hack days. Right, this is the last slide around team, a good team culture. Let's see now some real life case studies. So this one is something that we worked on in the past few months. So we talked about Agile, the Agile methodology, and this is targeted towards teams of, let's say, a maximum of 10 people. Now, at Creative Assembly in Total Work or Technology, we have 70 people. How do we cooperate with each other? How do we scale this concept of Agile? And even beyond, how do we cooperate with the different game teams we support? So the Agile framework can scale. There are frameworks called like SAFE or LESS. What we did in this case, we asked for requirements to all our stakeholders, and rather than having this huge backlog of things they would like to do, we narrow it down to like a quarterly backlog. And then we did overall retrospectives with them. We used to have retrospectives just within our single teams, and now we've expanded this to also like game teams or cross-team retrospectives, and we gathered the feedback from all of them. Unfortunately, it didn't go very well in the beginning. Why? So there was still pressure to deliver. There was no time for innovation. And also we missed internal dependencies. The teams kept working in isolation. So how to fix this? And it's an iterative process that keeps evolving and improving. But as we saw a tip earlier on changing the process to change the culture, this is something that we've put in place. So rather than asking people for requirements, we started bringing stakeholders together to discuss their needs. So we used to like ask each one of them singularly to send us their requests. Now we changed the approach, and we are bringing them together in the same room, and they share what they need. So this really helped them to understand other priorities, to resolve clashes, and also understand our side of the project, know the problem, since we are a central team working with them all. We also applied this internally with all our teams. Around the internal dependencies missed, again, a very good idea is to bring people together and do like cross-team, what we call backlog refinement. So the checking at the list of things we need to do and reviewing it together, rather than again in isolation with other team, talk about dependencies and invite people to collaborate. This was the first case study. The second one is around team culture. So because we wanted to set clear goals, we also wanted to give a mission statement for our core technology group. So again, we look after the tech roadmap for the franchise. So what would be our mission statement? We did something a bit different. I would expect to see something around technology, like cutting edge technology, and being focused on innovation or something. And instead, what we put as the first point was to build a positive and collaborative culture that develops cutting edge technology. So we believe that the great technology is a byproduct of having a positive and collaborative culture. So and we believe that making this clear for our team members is quite important, so they share the goal. Another case study I'm going to discuss today is about the Total War engine. So in the past, it used to have different components, each looked after by a different team, we moved away from this. Well, we created this core tech group so that we could all work together with the same goal and in the same direction. So this was the next step, and we work with all the game teams to share and discuss together the tech roadmap for the future. And we mentioned some of the issues here. So we are taking this one step further and creating one single team. So seeing ourselves not as the core tech team and this game team, but one team working together on the future and acting as one single entity. So introducing team dynamics concepts, bringing leads together, shared goals and objectives. So this is true both on the technological aspect, where where we brought all the tech components together from a people aspect around these team dynamics, and also methodology where we introduce scaled agile, aligning on objectives for the franchise and what each team should work on. The second to last example I'm going to share is something called Obeya. So they encourage to have these rooms where you can at a glance see how everything is going. So not just the leads and the directors have an idea of what's going on, but everyone can go and know what the vision is, what the customers or players are saying, what the plans are, what's the performance, so that it encourages transparency and gives a view to anyone who wants to be involved. And this rapid exchange of learning is incredibly valuable. This is something that is actually mentioned by many different terminologies, if you want. This continuous feedback cycle of learning, testing, validating is a key characteristic of Agile, but also of the DevOps movement, of the PDCA, plan, do, check, adjust, games as a service, where games are treated as something that is evolving constantly, listening to the players' feedback. The last case study I'm going to share is around, for example, uni projects or game jams, and I've mentored some of those in the past few years, and they're always great experience that you can also add to your CV. And what I recommend to people working on this project are some of the tips that we've seen in this presentation. So welcome task conflict and stop interpersonal conflict. Discuss team dynamics. A quick chat at the beginning can be very helpful. So if you're about to start a project like this, it might be good to share some of these tips. Take responsibility for things. When we said don't sit on the sidelines. Clarify the goals of your group, and expect things to be a bit murky in the beginning. So don't be afraid if it's very awkward when your team starts. Be a supporter of good team culture, and yeah, as I mentioned, if you have projects like this, add them to your CV, because at the start it still shows that that you have experience, that you care, that you are eager to learn. Right, that was all from me for today. So thank you everyone for listening, and have a great day.